This is a new place. It's not a bigger Goodison, but it has memory of Goodison.
Goodison Park is still the only football league ground in England that has staged a World Cup semi-final.
It's obviously the only English ground that Pele played competitive football on.
And Howard a bit too casual there, let ball in, and he's got it!
He was my hero. Everton lost something that day, and Evertonians of that era, my era, know that he was one of the all-time greats, and we've had a few.
My God, this is getting high. This is getting very, very high.
One of the coolest footballers that you could meet.
Manchester City bought a certain player recently, and suddenly they were saying he's going to take that record. Rob, nobody is going to take that league scoring record from the great Dixie Dean.
I often get very engaged in the history of a club that I'm working with or a team. But what's unique about this is that the history of Goodison is so deep and visceral that the first time I was at the building, I really felt that. The notion that this club really is representative of the community and the people, that's very infectious. So it's really turned into something I've never experienced in my career, that it's like being the most committed fan and then having the responsibility and the opportunity to think about what is our new home. It's a unique thing to design a building that is so much about passion, and it's not just another project. We're not building a stadium on a dock, we're growing a stadium out of a dock. It is an unusual site. We're constricted by the size and shape of the dock and the water adjacency, and that's unusual. There is some limitation physically to what we could do capacity-wise. That constriction of the site helped us get to a very, very tight bowl so that the seats are all very right on the pitch and very steep and intimate. This isn't about comparing ourselves to another stadium. This is a new place. It's not a bigger Goodison, but it has pieces in memory of Goodison. it's very difficult to bring that lightning in a bottle from a small, intimate ground to a big, shiny new stadium. It's a feeling. It's not about architecture. It's undeniable the impact of having a giant, steep wall of fans and the value that that will have in helping the club. It's in my blood, and it is much more than just a project and a piece of business for me. This is really an incredible thing that fans have waited for such a long time. And now we're playing football in this historic dock.
So this is where the coach is going to drop the players off outside the stadium. You can imagine on a big night there'll be fans here cheering the players on. They make their way off the coach and into the fantastic ground. But first, let me show you this. This is fantastic. They really have thought of all the little touches down here. A nod to Goodison Park right there. It's impressive, isn't it?
I've always been creative growing up, and I think I kind of owe that to my granddad, and he's also the reason I'm an Evertonian, and he's no longer with us now, but he was always creative. I'm a season ticket holder, being in amongst the people, in the fans, in the community, and that's what Everton is for me. It's just kind of developed from there, really.
And here we are in the home dressing room. It's absolutely massive. It's 5 times the size of the Goodison home dressing room, that's for sure. There should be a seat-out tubes, nice and central. Bit different to the benches used at Goodison in the home dressing room. Very comfortable. That doesn't inspire you, nothing will. Jake or Jared, maybe.
I was at our new stadium recently. You walk in and your first reaction is, wow, spectacular, it's unbelievable. But this has got something special about it. Every stand is different.
It's evolved, hasn't it? It's had 130 plus years to evolve. I think the challenge with new stadia is it's all built at once. Goodison's had that organic quality.
Yeah, and that adds to its character. I mean, like the Park End stand, if you think about it, you'd think that's relatively new, but that's 30 years old, isn't it, really? And as you say, the main stand goes back to 1970, and it does give a distinct feel to the ground. That's just because it's organic, as you say. And
it's because of the players who played on that pitch. And when you can sit in there now, and you can look at a certain area of the pitch and think, try and imagine in your mind what it must have been when Dixie Dean headed that 60th goal in, for instance.
And it's a goal, Meadow Dixie.
So in that 27-28 season, Dixie was closing in on that 60-goal record to beat George Camsell's 59 the year before. 2 games to go, he needed 7 goals, and I think they went away to Turf Moor, and he hit 4. Then obviously he picked up an injury, so it was touch and go even, wasn't it, whether he was going to play in that last game of the season against Arsenal.
Didn't the Everton trainer almost sleep with him, or not sleep with him, but sleep in the same room as him?
Yeah, Harry Cook. Yeah.
Harry Cook, the famous Harry Cook. And we always talk, don't we, about in those days, the main cure for everything was the magic sponge. Yeah. And supposedly, that was high tech, that heat treatment that Cook was giving him every couple of hours.
And it clearly did the trick, and he took the field. Everton were already crowned champions, so there was some pressure was taken off, but everybody had come knowing that, Dixie needed to get a hat-trick. And I think he got two early goals. I think one was a penalty, but the clock's ticking away. And I think there's maybe 8 minutes left when the ball goes out for a corner.
Pinpoint corner. And a bullet headed into the back of the net. And, you think about the attendances now and things like that, and the attendances then, and what that roar must have been like, coming from Goodison Park when that third goal went in. 60 goals in one season. Manchester City bought a certain player recently, and suddenly they were saying he's going to take that record. Rob, nobody is going to take that league scoring record from the great Dixie Dean.
So this is one-way glass, and behind here are members of Beyond. They'll be able to see the players as they leave the home dressing room, walking to the pitch. It'll be an unbelievable experience for everyone behind the glass. The players won't be able to see them. It's very similar to what Manchester City have at their stadium, the Tunnel Club. We've got our own version here at this stadium. The images, the drone footage, they're fantastic, but they don't do it justice in the nicest possible way. When you're in here, the scale of it, the size of it, the feel of it, it's totally different, and it's until you walk in, you can't be prepared for it. You aren't prepared for it. As an away fan, this will be an unbelievable venue to watch football. Wow, what an incredible place this is going to be for us. Thought I'd have something clever to say, but I'll have to have a minute.
Goodison's been our home for 133 years. I've gotten to know the place really well. It's full of character and it's full of life. So different when you come in here, and from a photographer's perspective, getting to grips with what this new stadium is, how it's situated. There's a few nods to Goodison here with the Archibald Leach designs in different places. So it's going to be a process of learning how my sort of match day routine is going to evolve and grow. You know, it's kind of just learning how we marry that together between the new architecture and then the old features of the old dock wall and things like that. And I think those are the little bits and pieces that are going to make it so great and so interesting to photograph.
Alan Ball was practicing today with his new colleagues at Belfield, the Everton training ground. He'll make his debut with the Merseyside club on Saturday against Fulham at Craven Cottage. The transfer suits Ball ideally, for his home near Bolton is only 35 minutes drive from the Everton training centre.
Everton offered £110,000, Leeds offered £100,000. Bally took the decision to sign for Everton. Ball in his book revealed in a sensational fashion that Revie had been giving him money to make him sign for Leeds.
He was transformative though, wasn't he? I remember speaking to Colin Harvey a couple of years ago, and he said that when this sort of confident person sort of walked into Belfield for the first time, he just raised the bar. You know, you had some great players in this squadron, you know, Jimmy Gabriel, Colin Harvey and the like, but Colin said that, you know, just Ball had that impact through his ability and his sheer will to win, and just raise the standards, that extra 5% that sort of set us up for that sort of late 60s greatness.
Dad said that when Alan Ball signed, he said he used to go home after training and get a tennis ball and go in my nana and granddad's backyard and put a mark on the wall and practice hitting the tennis ball against the wall, because he was determined that he was going to become a better player because he was going to be playing with Alan Ball. And he reckons that when Alan Ball signed, the club became a better club, the team became a better team. Signing a World Cup winner and someone of that quality raised the whole stature of Everton Football Club.
I fell in love with him in the '66 World Cup. Brilliant and mischievous. I remember him sitting on the ball in the park end corner over there, calling on a player. These are the things that you really remember. Things that, you know, it's not about success or failure, it's about a spirit that you rarely get evoked anywhere. And he clearly loved the club.
A bit too casual there, let Ball in, and he's got it!
3 2, 1.
You have to be special to have a statue put up to you at any stadium. And we've got 3 players who played together in midfield, and we've got the statue just a few yards away from here. Ball, Harvey and Kendall. Howard used to laugh, say it should be Kendall, Harvey and Ball.
Yeah.
But what a partnership they were. And Bally, though, he was world class, no doubt about it.
Like great Evertonians that regard it so highly because what they did against Liverpool.
Liverpool. For 5 days, ABC TV engineers and technicians fought against gales to make possible an experiment which resulted in the biggest crowd for a cup tie in history. 8 huge screens, 30 feet by 40, were put up on the pitch at Anfield, Liverpool's home ground. For here, a capacity crowd were to watch the Merseyside Cup battle, Everton versus Liverpool.
One of the great, most memorable nights in Goodison history, isn't it, really? And there's not many people wanting to watch the game. It was moved to a Saturday evening, not on the telly, because they could show the game on screens at Anfield in the evening, because it obviously needed the darkness for the screens to work. And there was a record 105,000 people, wasn't there, across both grounds. There was full house 65,000 here at Goodison, and 40,000 watching on the big screens at Anfield.
Tickets for the live relay were sold out within 36 hours. The gate was worth £12,000.
Big man comes up again, doesn't he? Alan Ball.
At last, ball headed in the net for Everton. The moment was shared, as it happened, by 2 massive crowds miles from each other, but linked by modern science. ABC TV's experiment had proved a major success.
April 1970 is when we beat West Brom 2-0 to pick up the league title. I didn't have much money. I thumbed a lift to the game got a lift on the Formby bypass, had my scarf on, an Evertonian stopped, brought me to the game. I was meeting one of my dad's mates, a guy called Joe Lowe, fantastic Evertonian. We won 2-0. Champions, 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 champions. Brian LeBone was injured. So Alan Ball, my absolute hero of all time, had been made captain for the game, and he went up and was presented with the league championship trophy. The crowd invaded the pitch. God, I was desperate to get on the pitch, but Jolo, bless him, wanted to get home, and he sort of said, look, you know, you can go, but I'm not giving you a lift. To this day, why didn't I walk the 13 miles home? I can't believe I didn't. And that's one of my big regrets of my times at Goodison. And my dad came home and he said, I've got something to tell you, son. You know, I said, what's that, Dad? He said, he was clearly upset. He said, Alan Ball's going to Arsenal. And I burst into tears, and I went up to my room and I cried my eyes out. He was my hero. Everton lost something that day. They really did. And his quotes are all around the stadium as well. And Evertonians of that era, my era, know that he was one of the all-time greats, and we've had a few.
The only player I've cried over twice. And I cried when he left and went to Arsenal.
Yeah.
And when he sadly passed. And I think that's the measure of the man, wasn't it? I think you'd ask anyone, certainly of my generation and a little bit older, I think anyone who didn't have the honour and privilege of seeing Dixie Dean would probably say that he's the greatest player to pull on a blue shirt.
Absolutely.
As a fan who just absolutely loves Everton and absolutely loves photography, I basically just am showing people my match day through my lens. It's kind of evolved over the years, but you know, one of the things that has always stayed the same for me is my walk up to my season ticket seat in the main stand, and you know, these pictures here of people walking up up the stairs, that the same route that I take, you know, that really sort of resonates with me. You know, there's pictures of people here that I don't necessarily know their names, their stories, who they are, but their faces and people that I've seen for years and have all contributed to what my match day routine is. These are the faces that I'm really going to miss when we leave Goodison Park. I've been able to connect with fans as far away as like Malaysia and Australia. They feel through my photos that they are on a match day at Goodison again. And for me, that is absolutely everything. For people to feel like they are still at Goodison when they can't necessarily get over for one reason or another. This is Dave. Ever since I've kind of been photographing down the years, he's kind of been a mainstay. He's always up on his feet, giving it loads. Quite an interesting person to capture on camera. The passion that I have for Everton really comes through in my photography and in my work. As a kid, everyone wants to meet their sort of heroes, whether that's, for a lot of people it is Duncan Ferguson, and you know, I was lucky enough to be at Finch Farm when I was younger, and I think it was when he was managing or coaching the under-18s team at the time. I got a picture with him, and every time I look at that picture I'm like, why? As the picture's taken, a gust of wind has come across and it's blown my hair all over my face. So you can't actually really see much, and it's a terrible picture of me, but yeah, I was too scared to turn around and say to Duncan, can we take that photo again, please? This picture here is incredibly special to me. Leighton Baines is another one of my Everton and footballing heroes. We had a little chat about photography because, you know, it's a hobby of his, and it was just a memory for me that'll live with me forever, really. Probably one of the coolest, sort of more personable footballers that you could meet.
There's so many firsts for Goodison, aren't there? If we go back, you know, over the 132, 133 years. I mean, it was when we had that enforced move from Anfield, it did really become the first sort of purpose-built football ground, you know, built hurriedly in the space of a few months.
Yeah.
You know, you think about 6 to 10 years for Stadium now. We built that in the summer. Just before the Second World War, with the completion of the Gladys Street, it became the first stadium to have, you know, double-decker stands on all four sides. So that was a great statement. And the King actually visited shortly afterwards, King George VI, to view it and also to view the troops. But if we go back to 1913, I think George V visited, and that was the first time a reigning monarch had visited a sort of club football ground. Fast forward into the 50s, it may have been the doldrums in some ways for the club, but we were the first to install undersoil heating. So I think we were the first English side to have dugouts where the trainer and the sort of later on the substitute could sit. An unusual one was that I think in 1924 we had the White Sox and the New York Giants come over, these major baseball teams actually came over to try and spread the gospel about their sport from across the Atlantic, and their first stop was Merseyside. They sailed up the Mersey.
Ah, right, that's why, yeah.
And the next day they played here at Goodison, they played baseball.
And that was rather fitting because in 1892, the Out of Doors magazine described Goodison Park as the equal of all of the great American baseball stadiums. So there's a full circle that's coming.
And in fact, Everton themselves, about in the late 40s, had their own baseball team, played at Belford and Goodison Park.
Caledonians.
And Dixie Dean turned out for the Caledonians as well.
I love the arcs behind the goal.
Whittle, a beautiful header and a magnificent goal. What a superb goal from Ball's corner. Whittle getting up like a jack in the box by the near post.
It was very quick. I'm not sure added straight to the atmosphere, and they'd be brought in 1963 by John Moores after a dart was allegedly thrown at the Spurs goalkeeper, Bill Brown. So he put the arcs behind the Park End goal and the Gladys Street.
I'll never forget the boys' pen. I mean, I must have been 9 when I went into the Everton pen for the first time. It was at the looking from the pitch, it was the right-hand side of the Gladys Street. We were fenced in.
And before the sort of violence of the 70s, when they meshed it in and caged everybody in, it just used to have very tall railings. Dad would bring me to a game, put me in the boys' pen, and then he and a load of his mates would hoik me over the railings into Gladys Street from the boys' pen. Of course, you couldn't do that when when they'd caged it over. So I moved into Gladys Street after that.
If you were in the ground, you'd hear this high-pitched screaming coming from that side of the ground, and that was the boys' pen.
People talk about bringing national service back. Just bring the boys' pen back. If anyone's got any ideas of getting up to a bit of jiggity-pokery, 2 games in that boys' pen will put you on the... You'd be on the straight and narrow, I tell you.
Goodison's status as one of the finest football venues in the land was really cemented when we were selected to have the World Cup.
Oh, we had the best group in me by miles in the 66 World Cup. When you look at the other groups, you had Portugal, Hungary, Brazil.
The memories still linger with me to this day. I'm fighting my way up the steps. My dad's pushing people out the way. It's almost 60 years now. I was 10 years old. My cease is just here. I came to watch all the World Cup games here at Goodison. My dad had got me tickets. Watching Brazil, watching Pele, watching Garrincha. I've got my World Cup programme here with all the team information in. I bought my Hungary rosette before the game started, so I'll be supporting Hungary today because they're the underdogs. And I'm well versed in all the teams in the World Cup because I've got my essential Liverpool Echo guide to the World Cup.
Just having that Brazil team here, it was obviously the only English ground that Pele played competitive football on, and Eusebio, and one of the greatest games that Goodison ever stayed, and Everton didn't play, did they?
Portugal against North Korea, one of the best games of football I've ever seen.
North Korea, an unknown quantity against the Portuguese side with Eusebio starring, and the North Koreans go 3-0 up. I think North Korea, once they're 3-0 up, didn't know what to do. Basically, Eusebio just steamrolled them, and the Portuguese ended up 5-3 winners.
And I also got to see the World Cup semi-final here between West Germany and the USSR.
But the fact that this was unfolding here will tell you that at that time, Goodison Park was one of the finest grounds in the country.
Goodison Park is still the only league stadium in England that has hosted a World Cup semi-final, and that's something that can never be taken away from this stadium.
My God, this is getting high. This is getting very, very high. I don't like heights. What it does is it makes you really optimistic for the future. This club deserves to be up, playing top-level football, European football, Champions League nights. Incredible. And when you're in here, it's easier to believe. It's easier to see Everton as a Champions League side when you're in the stadium than probably it is for a lot of people to think about in Goodison Park, as much as we love it. But coming here, it really is. It's a ground fitting for European football. As a stadium and a setting, I don't think there's anywhere better.
Just to be here with other people feeling the same way as I do, and he was my dad.
He's always going to be an Everton legend, Campbell, I think. One of the great striking performances.
It's a brilliant goal! That's the chances. Oh, brilliant goal! Remember the name, Wayne Rooney.
You can feel it. You can feel the place vibrating.
I think the Newcastle game at home, that was pretty special.
And Everton closing in on the Champions League.
Aman, how are you? Why me?
The time finally arrives for you to rest. The mother of our football club, always nothing but the best.